So in today's session, of course, we'll be going through the Swift Digital integration with Zoom. And there's a few topics that we'll be covering today, which of course, how to run online events using Zoom and Swift Digital, attendee statistics based on how long a person has entered and stayed, and show you the exit times of those registrants. We'll also dive in a little bit on CPD points and how to apply that correctly in your settings for your events, and as well as the configuration stage, which is probably the most important part because once this is set up, everything else should fall into line with your events and your meetings in Zoom. So the first thing you want to do is access the Zoom app marketplace, and an easy way for you to do that is if you go into your Zoom account, you will need to access the solutions toolbox. And so I'll go through that again. Products, and you'll need to go to App Marketplace under Solutions. So under App Marketplace, you'll see a Develop button at the very top where it says Build App. So when you click into Build App, it's going to give you a new window, and the option you want to be using is Server to Server OAuth app here. So by selecting that, there will be a create button that appears down at the very bottom, and you can hit create as so. So ideally, you do want to name this app with something that's easy for you to relate to in terms of a Swift Digital and Zoom integration. So we're just going to call this Swift Digital and Zoom integration. I'm just going to add V2 just to differentiate between the one that I have existing in the account and the new one here. So once I click create, what's going to happen is it'll take me to a new page in Zoom. So in here, there are a few important values that you'll need for integrating it to your Swift Digital account. In particular, it will be the account ID, and client secret, which you see here. These are auto-generated, so you can click continue to go to the next step, which of course is the information section. You can add in a short description if you need to, but mainly speaking, you do want to fill out the company name, the developer contact information, so your name, the email address of the person who's actually setting it up. So you can have those details filled in there. Once we click continue, it should take us to this page, which gives us a secret token, which is going to be used for the integration as well. So we'll leave this for later on when we go through the Swift Digital side of things. And one of the important aspects of this would be to add your scopes. So there's a total of 23 different scopes that you do need to enable within this integration process. And to add scopes, it's simply clicking the Add Scopes option and filling in the scopes that have been set out in the configuration manual that we'll provide. So I have them all on a notepad. So what I'll do is just copy them over as so. Might take me a couple of minutes just to do this. But essentially what I'm doing is just copying and pasting different scopes that I need. So you don't need to click done right after. You just need to enable these as you go along. So there's about 23, which I'll hopefully can do quite quickly. And essentially what these scopes will do is just to provide you with the ability to manage registrants, remove registrants and so forth, and then also track the data that's coming through into Zoom and going to Swift as well. I'll do this quickly. Hopefully I can get it done in the next couple of minutes. So you can pretty much track whether you've got all 23 that are required on the left-hand side there, which you can see that I've got about 13 now. 10 more to go. might be missing one. Let's just check the list. There we go. So now that we have 23, we can click done and should show you all the different scopes that are going to be used for the integration. So you don't need to click any of these checkboxes. They should already be automatically applied. And then once you do that, you can click continue and your app is ready for activation. So simply just click activate your app. And once you see that your app is activated on the account, you can go through the Swift Digital side of things to set that up. So to do that, you'll need to go to your Swift Digital account. And of course, you'll need to have administration access and access to the Events Desk module as well for this to work. In the drop-down, you'll see the administration module at the very bottom. And in the tab integrations is where you want to go. So there is a tab for Events Desk integration, which we see here. I've got this set up already, but I'll just remove this for now. But there is the button for your Zoom integration via this button here. So add Zoom integration, and it should come up with these values that you need to fill in. So again, I'm just going to call this Swift Digital Zoom integration, B2, and then fill in your account ID, client secret, and secret token as well. So going back into the app, I'll need to get those values. So again, if we go to app credentials, we've got the account ID and client ID as well. So I'm just going to copy those and copy them over. That's our account ID. We've got our client ID and then our client secret, which we can copy as well. And then of course our secret token, which is under feature, we can copy that secret token in. So once you've got all those values pre-populated into this section here, click confirm. And what that's going to do is run a verification and you should be able to see the status is verified. So you can actually view the details of that integration through here as well. And it's important to note that you will need these two pieces of information for setting up the event. So when I go to feature, there's a section called general features where it says event subscriptions. So this is going to allow our information to feed through to Zoom. So it's important for you to enable this as well. So when you enable this, there is a button for add event subscription, sorry. So when you click through to this, it's going to open up this. And of course, we can just add in Swift Digital Zoom integration once again. Leave the method as webhook. And then you also need to add in the event notification endpoint URL. So in order for you to do this, you will need to go back into your administration module, access this again. So you can just simply click the blue button, which is view. You want to copy this Zoom event notification endpoint URL and copy it into the Zoom section. Additionally, you do want to expand this option here, which is authentication header option, and select custom header. So when you select custom header, it's going to give you these two values. So ideally this one, the first section would be SDID, which is just a Swift Digital identification. And then the header value, which you find in here, is what you'd like to copy over. So once you've done that, simply click validate. So you do have to validate this as you go along. And once you get the validated message, that should ensure that everything's integrated completely. So I'll do that again. So, and there's one more thing that you need to do, and it's another 4 scopes for the event side of things. So these are the 4 different scopes. And again, it's just participant scopes that we're adding in right now. So we add those in, total of 4. So once you hit done, you should be able to save this. And the event subscriptions phase is completed as well. So now that you've done that, the configuration is completed. All you need to do now is go back to your Zoom account So just going back to your Zoom account, and you should be able to set up meetings and webinars and link them to your Swift Digital events. So generally speaking, you do want to set up your meetings and your webinars first, because the way the event is set up in Swift Digital is that it needs a venue, and we'll definitely go through the venue part in more detail. But in this case, we'll need to set up our meetings or webinars first. So depending on what type of event you're going to be running, whether it's going to be a meeting or a webinar, you'll decide whether to create or schedule those through Zoom. So I'm just going to create a webinar and schedule a webinar, which is on the right-hand side here. And essentially, you just add in the topic, so the topic name. So I'm just going to call this Swift Digital Zoom integration presentation. Most importantly, you do need to set when this event or webinar will be running. So I'm just going to select next month on the 14th at 1 p.m. Of course, the duration, which is, of course, when that will be finished. And then the time zone is also important because it does need to match up with the one that you create in your events desk module. The other settings, don't have to worry too much about. If you do want to add more options in your webinar, you can. So these are Zoom specific settings. But once you hit schedule, it should take you to the next page. You do also want to enable registration required as well, just so that when it comes to setting up your events desk event, the registration form will be picking up those registrations for the Zoom webinar. So once you hit schedule, the next step would be for you to go to your email settings. So in email settings, you do want to disable Zoom's confirmations, because the confirmations will be sent from Swift Digital. So to do this, you need to just click edit, and you just need to uncheck the send confirmation email to registrants. So once you hit save, it should remove that setting. And we can go to the next step, which is, of course, creating our event in Events Desk. So going back into my account, I want to go through the Events Desk module. And this is where we create those events to link over to our Zoom webinars and meetings. To do that, you'll need to just click New Event and giving the event a name. So I'm just going to call this again, Swift Digital Zoom Integration Presentation. It does need to be a basic event, and all events will need to be free as well. In order to apply CPD points to each attendee, you'll need to enable the award CPD points option, which we see down at the very bottom here. When you click confirm, it will take you to the event settings. And of course, you can fill out all the details of the event that you're going to be running in Events Desk. So the way the Zoom integration works with Swift Digital Events is each Zoom meeting or webinar that you create, a new venue will need to be created for the event that you create in Swift. So there's two ways of doing that. You can create that via the Venues tab, which you can do here, or you can create it directly through your event settings, which I can just call Swift Digital Zoom Integration Presentation. And then simply click the Add button, which you see underneath it. So this will open up this particular module here. And in this module, what you'll see is the venue name, and then you do need to check the online option. So by clicking online, what that's going to do is pull up these particular details here. So the max seating capacity, you do need to set that to the limit you have set in Zoom, or however many seats Zoom allows you to have for a webinar or a meeting. So in this case, we've got 500. The online venue integration dropdown, you do need to select Zoom. So just ensure you select Zoom. And then you also need to specify which integration name. So I've got one existing one, and the one that we've just set up is this one here. So we'll be using that one. And the integration type, because we are running a webinar, we'll want to link this to a webinar. So you have the option to link it to a meeting or webinar, as you see here. By clicking webinar, the webinar ID will come up. And an easy way for you to get that webinar ID is by just going back to Zoom and accessing the details of that particular Zoom webinar. So we just copy and paste that into here. There is a verify button as well, just so that it gives you the option to confirm all details are correct prior to linking this event to your Zoom webinar. So I've got the topic name, the start time, the time zone, registrations, and all other details as well. So once you hit confirm, it should create that venue for you. And as you can see, we've got our venue placed into the venue section. The start date and time section we have here. Of course, we need to set up the date and time that matches the Zoom webinar. So simply selecting the date and then also the time as well. So ours was going to start at 1 p.m. and it was an hour duration, so it must finish at 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. and click apply. With the registrations open and close and archive on, of course, that's all up to you. So depending on when you want registrations to open and close, you can specify those times via specific time or relative time. So I'm just going to set up a few dates and times. And archive date on is when this event will be placed into the archive section of your events desk module. So I'm just going to say 2 weeks from now, or two weeks from the event's finish date, this event will be archived on there. The event capacity, again, you need to set that to 500. So uncheck the unlimited box and set it to 500. If you want to enable waitlist, you can do that as well. And who can register as well. So you can specify if only contacts you invited, subscribers, or anyone who has access to the registration link. So organizer's name and organizer's email address. So these are where confirmation tickets will be sent from. So if you'd like to change this, you can. I'm just going to leave it as Swift Digital Presentations and have the confirmations come from support at. And of course, scrolling down, you have your autoresponders and your confirmation information. Ensure that send confirmation is ticked. That ensures that emails for people receiving their unique URLs are sent to them automatically after they've registered for the event. So down below is where you'll find the CPD points. So you can specify how many CPD points a person will receive after they've attended the event. So I can say 5 points will be awarded to this person once they've attended. An automatic point reward upon attendance is if they've attended, we just mark them off as attended, and also award them the CPD points as well. You can upload your own certificates through the upload docx template through here. We do have a really basic one that's available, but of course you might have your own branded CPD certificates, and those will work fine as well, just as long as it's a Word doc. And then last but not least, we have save in folder. So save in folder will allow you to place into a particular folder. You can create new folders via the add a folder button and enter in the name of the folder through here. So I'm just going to call this Swift Digital and Zoom meetings /webinars and hit confirm. So once you've done that, click save. And what that's going to do is save your event. And you just want to double check that all the details that you've entered into here are correct based on the Zoom meeting that you've created. So I've got all that set up correctly. That should be fine. So the next step, of course, is to create a ticket type. And you do need to have a ticket type regardless of whether it's a free event or a paid event, just to ensure that people are able to receive confirmation tickets when they do register for the event itself. So once I click add ticket, which you see on the right hand side here, I can just enter in the name and then set also a maximum number of tickets available for purchase, which of course is the limit that you've allowed in your Zoom account. I would recommend not checking this one here because when you set up your registration form anyways, the ticket does not appear on the registration form when they are registering. So simply hit confirm, and what that's going to do is set up that ticket. Next step is for you to go to forms, and in forms is where you'll be able to set up the registration page and then click create a new form. So ideally you want to just select the single column. The theme in itself would be the theme that you have built in your account. So each account should have their own unique branded themes. For this account here, we've just got the default one. So I will be using a Swift Digital default landing page theme. And then the most important section here would be the express form checkbox, which you will need to enable because the way the registration form works is it's a one-for-one registration. We don't allow guests when it comes to Zoom specific webinars because each URL is unique to each person registering. So once you click OK, it should take you to the registration form page. And of course, you can style this however you like. I'm just going to make this really basic, but have a header at the very top. And then just add in a banner. And then also just add in a space at the very bottom. But ideally, the most important part here would be, of course, to set up the details that you want to capture from this particular event or from the people who are registering. And you do want to make sure that the first name and last name and email field are mandatory fields because this will filter back into Zoom as the person who's registering for the event. You do leave it as optional and someone doesn't have their first name and last name filled in. What happens is you won't be able to see that person's details in your Zoom view. You can add other details if you want to, if you're tracking those details for your Swift Digital events via the add field option. And you can select whichever fields you will be using to capture that. So I can add organization if that's something I need. You also do want to enable the allow only one guest per email address. So people don't follow up with multiple email addresses which are matching. The unique URLs are based on email address. So it's important to only allow one guest per email. So we can save this through now and then fill in the details as required, hit save, and that should save our registration form. So now that we have our registration form up and running, we can go back to our settings. And to access the form link, simply go to this button here and you can copy this to a URL and then open up a new tab and it should take you to the registration page. So now that this link is live, we can register for the event. One thing to note is if you are testing and you are also the owner of the Zoom account, you won't be able to use the email address that's currently being used in Zoom. You ideally might want to use a personal email address, probably the best way to go about it. That way you can receive the unique URL because as the host, you're already attending the event and you've already got the host URL. There's no need for them to generate a new unique link for you. So for testing purposes, I'm going to use my personal email address and then hit the register button as so. So they'll receive this message at the very top here, and this just indicates that they've received their confirmation in the inbox. So you can always customize this via the event settings as well. So I'm just going to wait for that to come into my personal email address just to show you where that link will show. So by dragging this window across here, you can see here that I've got the details of the event, date, time, and then also the unique URL that comes through into the confirmation ticket as well. So if I click into this link, it should take me to that particular meeting, that particular webinar. I won't click into it now because if I do, it will close this webinar that we're recording. So just going back into Swift Digital, the Swift Digital Suite, if you go to your registration tab and refresh this, you should see that this person has registered for the event. If I click into here, what you'll see is the details of this person. But in the timeline tab, what it's going to show you is the Zoom webinar registrant ID and the URL that they received in their confirmation ticket as well. So the integration shows you quite a fair few different pieces of information. And because this event is running in the future, I'm going to go to an event that I worked on earlier this week, which is this one here, to show you other details which filters through from Zoom into Swift. So if we go back to registration again and click into the booking agent's name, if we go to the timeline, should come up here. So if we go to the timeline, what you'll see here is when the person registered, the meeting registrant ID, which we see here, and also when the registrant had actually joined the Zoom webinar and when they left as well. So that shows you when they've left the meeting and the duration in which they have stayed in the meeting as well. So this person only stayed for 1 minute and 18 seconds. And you can pretty much gather this for all your different attendees as well. And with the Zoom integration as well, it does mark attendance automatically for you. So if a person has entered into the Zoom meeting with the unique link that they've been provided with, the attendance will be marked as so. So going back into Events Desk and going to the one that we've created, if you check this manually yourself, what will happen is the CPD points will be provided. So the previous event didn't have any CPD points applied, but this one does. And you can actually change the view. So if you click on Edit View, you should be able to find CPD points. Click Confirm. So if they are automatically, if they have attended and accessed the actual link, then of course we have our CPD points applied to them automatically as well. Going back into Zoom, you will find that information in the Zoom meeting as well. So I think this is the one. So under invitations, you'll see total registrants. We've got one approved. If you click edit, you'll see that this person has registered for the event as well. So you'll see that both in both Swift Digital and in Zoom, that person has registered. If a person has cancelled via the confirmation ticket that they receive, they aren't necessarily cancelled in Zoom. So that's a bit, that's one thing that we currently don't have as a feature. At the moment, it's only the ability to manage, delete, and register for anyone who's using that particular integration. So that concludes our training webinar for today. I think we've gone through a few very different things, but once you set up the integration and configure all the different processes, it should be quite seamless in terms of creating your webinar and then linking it off to the Swift Digital event. You won't need to continuously run through the integration again. Once it's all set up, it should be easy going. But of course, to conclude this, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. I hope that's been really helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team. They do have quite a lot of knowledge on this particular integration. And of course, a recording and manual will be sent to you as well sometime next week. I hope you all have a lovely weekend and hopefully to speak to you soon as well.